Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first Peninsula Community Board meeting for 2022. And really just, I guess, the reflection from me this morning is the fact that we're in 2022. We face similar challenges in terms of Omicron, and we wouldn't be here on the live stream if it wasn't for the challenges that we face with Omicron. We will be meeting in our normal venue and enjoying some of Edna's famous sliced loaf. But unfortunately, that's just the way of the world as at the moment. And I guess the only thing that we can be thankful for at the moment also is that it seems that most in our community and indeed across the city seem healthy and well. So that is something certainly to be thankful for, and I guess also for the rest of us in our role to be mindful of as well. Move on to the public forum. We have Andy Mckendree from the Emergency Manager Advisor for Dunedin. He's looking to introduce himself, and I know that Lox and I have already met him recently or last year. He's taking over from Paul, and I think in Paul's previous position, who we had a good relationship. So, Andy, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Kia ora koutou. Can you see and hear me?
We can hear you.
You obviously have a face for radio, Andy.
And a voice for television.
We can hear you.
It was working fine. So, all right. Well, I'm Andy Mckendree, and I'm the new Emergency Management Advisor, as Paul said, taking over from Paul Allen. I want to continue Paul's good work with the various community boards and community response groups we have around Dunedin. I thought we had a very good meeting back on the 15th of December, where we reviewed your excellent response to the Portobello fires last year. We scoped some future work in 2022, and I'm coming before the board now just to explain myself really, and to set out what I hope is a fairly ambitious program of work with the board, and perhaps with a nominated community response group under the board's governance. So to that end, what I propose with your blessing is to follow up that December meeting, come back and perhaps discuss with Lox the current status. I know he was reviewing some of his documentation, so we'd just like to have a look at that. I've also been online and looked at your emergency plan as part of the community board plan, and I'm seeing some areas that we might want to tidy up together, in that there's no specific reference to a community response group as there are in other board areas. And in short, it sees the board not just resting at the level of governance, but probably getting involved in some operational matters, which I think would be better tasked to an established community response group. That, of course, is subject to further discussion. What I propose is then a tabletop exercise with members of the community response group sometime in March or April, with a view to then progressing that to a small scenario-based live exercise, probably based around the Portobello Bowling Club area in June and July. I think there's also scope for the members of the community response group to visit us in the bunker and just be reminded of the processes and procedures we've got there, which impact on your community level response. So that's my message. I'm just seeking the board's approval to continue in a fairly ambitious manner, just to make sure that we are all prepared for the eventuality of an emergency response. So thank you. I'll take any questions.
So sorry to say, Andy, we just lost Lox there for a moment, but I'll probably turn over to Lox just in terms of giving us a response round to that. He has been our lead in the civil defence stuff. Lox, did you have anything to say about Andy's ideas?
You're on mute, Lox.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Right. No, I lost the calling there. I've had a chat with Andy already about what what the intentions and the plans are, and I think we can just run with that. I think that's a pretty good idea. I'm quite comfortable with the setup. As I say, I've got some. I've updated the aid memoir, and I'm going to forward a copy of those details to Andy as well, so that he can use it as a work document. Other than that, no, I'm comfortable with what the process is going to be.
Are there any other questions from members of the board in relation to this? I for one, Andy, would welcome a greater level of community input in our area to civil defence. At the moment, yeah, I guess the board we've done a lot of work, locks in particular, and we've also been at the forefront of some of the emergencies that we've had here. And I don't have a problem with that, because I think that's our elected role. But I do, given what we're hearing coming out of civil defence in the last few years about self-awareness, but also self-help, I think that's probably would be a useful thing to have more community members involved.
Yep, totally concur with that. You'll be familiar with the National Resilience Strategy, which sees essentially individuals, families, whānaus, communities self-organising, self-activating in order to help themselves, because the basic premise is that the emergency responders are probably not going to get to you or your area within the first few days of a cataclysmic event. So the onus is on everyone to be ready in family and community groups. The onus is on us as the emergency management framework, as encapsulated in the SIMS document, which states that agencies need to enable, accommodate, link with, support and coordinate community participation and response. So the onus is very much on me to get together with your community, which has the discretion to organise and respond as it sees fit, and to make sure that the emergency services are fully dovetailed into your community effort. So once again, the onus is on me to conform to what your level of planning is. I'm more than happy to have that two-way exchange.
Well, very good. I'm quite happy to do that. And as I say, I think Locks and myself probably be, or certainly Locks be the key people to deal with that. I'll throw that one out to you again, Locks, but I look forward to it. And Andy, I'll let you go and get on to the rest of your day, albeit by Zoom or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I'm stuck at home like a lot of people right now.
Well, good luck and thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Well, we move on now. Are there any apologies? I don't think there are. We move on to item 4, confirmation of the agenda. I move that the board confirms the agenda without addition or alteration. In fact, before I do that, are there any additions or alterations? I think most of it will get picked up in your area roundups. I would just say the agenda is fairly thin, only because of Lauren being away, and also the break, that we didn't really actually get to setting the agenda until late last week. So that's why, and I thought, well, we can pick up a lot of your items, as I say, through your regional roundups. So we confirm the agenda without addition or alteration. Someone to second. Thank you, Cheryl. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of the need to stand aside from decision making when a conflict arose between their role as an elected representative and any private or other external interest that they might have. Before we move to that, are there any additional items needed to go onto the management plan for elected members' interests?
Paul, I updated my declaration of interest at the council meeting earlier this week.
That's noted, councillor. Therefore, I move that the board notes and amends any of those. Someone to second. Thank you, Graham. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Move on to confirmation of the minutes. We move that the board confirms the public part of the minutes, the Otago Peninsula Community Board being held on.
You moved on that, Paul. I have one addition.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Hawani.
No, being on a slow connection, I seem to be last to get into anyone who's trying to talk. I'm expert panelist on the Dunedin Hospital rebuild, so certainly potential for.
Difficult to hear you, Juani. Can I ask you to email that to Lauren? But as I say, we will note and confirm that as we've done already.
Some conflicts to arise with council and.
Yeah, I understand that. But we'll, if you email that to Lauren.
Just reading about what they want to do going to be.
Yeah, so we'll certainly, as I say, and I think we've already confirmed and amended that by motion. So that's fine. If you just add that to Lauren and she will add that to the agenda for the next meeting, because I certainly understand that's quite a large area. Before I move on, is there anything else? Sorry, I tend to move quite quickly with these things. Zoom seems to make me speed up for some reason. Very good. I move then that the board confirms the public part of the minutes. The Otago Peninsula Community Board meeting held on the 11th of November. Seems a long time ago. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right, thank you. Part A reports and item 7, community plan. Community board plan is tabled for discussion each board meeting to the purpose of review and update, and it's timely now as we move into the annual plan process, both for the City Council and the Dunedin and the Regional Council, that we review those things within that. I would like to see you do that over the course of the next, say, 2 weeks, with a view to seeing whether you're still comfortable with the priorities and whether those are still priorities that you wish to add into the board's submission. Is there any discussion on that? Cheryl, I know you have a number of things that you were looking for. Edna, I know that you also have some things you were looking for. I have a couple of things as well. So if you're comfortable with that process, if we could just get that done over the next couple of weeks, and I will draft the submission for you for your perusal. I think we will have enough time to confirm that submission in the next board meeting. It's also an opportunity to discuss that draft and whether or not there are changes that are required to it. Is everyone comfortable with that process? If you are, just put your hand up. If you're not, yep, cool. I can't see. Juani's gone, so he's cut off. All right, very good. There are a number of things. One in particular that comes to mind for me is the section of road widening that is not funded at Harrington Point, around to the Otago Fisheries Wharf. And I recently spoke to members of the Runaka there about their view on that, and they felt similarly that it was a safety issue for them and their community. So the Runaka are having some further discussions with that this weekend, and they will advise me what their views are from there. Anything else on the annual plan or on our updates of our board's plan?
Paul, what was the decision on the crossing in Mckendree Bay? Where is it going to be placed? There seems to be discussion about that.
About the crossing from Marion Street?
Yeah.
Well, my understanding was that that was still in process once the speed limit review or bylaw review had been made and that the speed limits had been set.
So the crossing won't be going where that little hump in the road is at the moment, where they stop in the middle of the road where people want to cross by the dairy?
No, the hump is designed to go across from Marion Street to the reserve.
Okay.
But the construction of that was delayed until the confirmation of the speed limits which include obviously the township areas being 40 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
Is that
Thank you.
okay? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and it's come up, it's been raised with me a number of times, and I'm just waiting to hear when those speed limits are initiated for the residential areas on the peninsula. Andrew, you might know when that's going to happen. No. Okay. That's a strictly yes or no answer. Thank you, Councillor. Very good. Anything else on community plan, annual plan items and our priorities? Andrew.
I was going to touch on my councillor's update, but when I look at what was discussed at the meeting on Monday, Tuesday, I think the one issue that could have some effect for residents on the peninsula was the curbside collection and how that affects the different parts of the community across the board area.
I wondered whether, Chris, you might step in here and just give us some understanding of that in relation to the peninsula.
Can't say too much at this point, to be honest. The procurement process for curbside, the tenders submissions have been received. We're in evaluation process at the moment, which will lead into final negotiation with the preferred supplier. The idea at the moment, obviously, is that those within standard curbside collection areas will be changing onto bins with another arrangement put in place for continuing with the use of bags, for example, for those people that are outside collection areas, that they can bring them to a designated collection point. But the final solution is yet to be determined through final negotiations with the preferred supplier.
And as I understand it, that would be for residents in the Back Bays, Pukahiki, Highcliffe area.
Yeah, peninsula, yeah, those areas, yes.
Just on that, the Pukahiki Highcliffe people had an extremely successful recycling system, worked with the council a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, which actually not only saved money for the council, but actually has worked really efficiently and solved some of the antisocial behaviour that we saw in that area. So it would be good to see something continue on in that way. And I certainly know that Back Bay residents have used the recycling centre at Hoopers Inlet extremely well, which Cheryl monitors. We have a few issues from time to time, but it seems to me that we have the infrastructure set up and the processes set up on the peninsula for those residents to potentially fit in with your plans and the wider refuge and other things, processes that we've got. Just putting it out there. Andrew.
Paul, there will also be obviously the cost on how that applies, because there is several options around funding the curbside collection and how that works. And I think the board may want to review that and see when they make the submission to the annual plan through that process as well.
I would have thought there would have been a reduction in cost to the council by having central locations available for refuge and recycling, as opposed to having trucks or contractors picking up.
I'm thinking right across the peninsula. When you look at the annual plan paper around the and what will be put in the consultating document, which will be finalised probably end of February, to go out for consultation to the public. That will be a part of it, and with the cost options and what is the preference is what I'd be anticipating.
Very good. We look forward to that. All right. I think we've done enough to death the community plan. We move on now to the Governance Support Officer's report. You've had a chance to, like myself, to look through some of those bits and pieces. We have at the moment Helen Chapman here, who is transportation planner, I believe, who's going to discuss the new shared path behaviour markings. Welcome, Helen. Just you need to up your volume just a wee bit.
I have to figure out where that setting is, sorry.
That's okay. So welcome to the community board. Normally we would regale you with fresh fruit loaf and coffee at the bowling club in Portobello, but unfortunately these strange times we have you on Zoom. So welcome, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
That's all right. Is that better in the sound?
Yes.
All right, so in October of last year, the Waka Kotahi NZ Transport Agency gazetted a new set of markings, and these are treated similarly to other road markings that you might see on the road, like give way, but they're designed to help manage some of the conflicts that they're finding on shared paths where you've got lots of different users. You've got fast cyclists, people walking dogs, pedestrians, children, recreational cyclists. So they're designed to just be reminders of the kind of the courtesy and the behaviour of how to make the path a space that can be shared without some of those conflicts happening. So what we've done is we've done a site visit and looked at how we might use these markings and come up with a suggestion for you to react to. And the markings that have been sort of gazetted are one that's moved to side when stopped. So that's where there might be a seating area, and rather than stopping to chat in the middle of the path, people might just step to one side. Keep left, that one's obviously more directed, it's directional. So particularly when you're coming out of, say, an area where you might have been more stopping to, or it's been quite narrow, just reminding people to keep left. There's two different types of markings asking people to slow down. One that's a sort of a general use slow around, there's a narrow corner coming up or something, and one that's particularly around where there's zones like Mckendree Bay to warn people that it's an area where there's lots of pedestrians, there's lots of activity, lots of children, and that actually that's an area where the bikes should be moving at walking pace. Alert when passing, just reminding cyclists to use the bells. And we've tried to use that particularly where there might be a pedestrian crossing, so pedestrians are stepping onto the cycle path, or where there's a bus stop. Give space, that's just a courtesy again when you're a faster cyclist is moving around another path user to not go too close. And one about keeping your dogs close to you on a leash and to the left side so that there's not a hazard there. So the maps have been shared. There's both a web version and a PDF version showing some of the suggested locations. And we're interested in your kind of views on what you think of the locations and the markings before we actually go out and put these on the road, on the shared path rather.
Can I?
Sounds going again.
Paul,
that was the best question you've ever asked. You're on mute.
I'm having trouble with the mute button, sorry. My only question, Helen, would be, I notice in these plans, there's nothing relating to the area from the Otago Fisheries Wharf round past Tamatea Road and to the bottom of the tank traps up to Tairoa Head Pukekura. And I'm just wondering, because that was one of the first paths that was done, I'm just wondering, because that's a mixed cycle pedestrian one, why there were no markings for that one?
So I think when we went out and did the site visit, some of it was that there'll be less users on that section, as I understand it. A lot of the markings only go as far as the Monarch Wharf, because I know that there's, for the tourism use, some will be coming on the Cross Harbour Ferry. But I think it was also that the standard of the path out there, because it was done quite a long time ago, is lower than some of the newer sections. So there's a tension when you're putting markings in about what standard of infrastructure people expect where you put them. But we can look to put some out there if you think that would be helpful to the community.
I think at a modicum of fairness to that community, and remembering that visitors do, and we have a lot of cyclists who do go as far as Otago Head, and given the fact that there are families in that area, I think some, even if it was at the beginning and the end of that area, I think that would be useful. And I understand what you're saying about standards. I guess the board doesn't look at it quite that way. We look at it as a connected footpath all the way through. And I think, I think so from that perspective, I think that would be useful to have a look at. Hawani has a question.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to state that because the bus still doesn't go up to Tairoa Head, it's not unusual for visitors coming out to town to get off near Te Raoni and then walk from there to Pukekura.
Yeah.
Recently encountering 11 Asian visitors walking through the tank traps all over the road, and without some kind of a path to control them, we're really looking at an accident sometime in the future. So the two options there is either we get the path or we get the bus going all the way to Pukekura.
Yeah, and that will form the basis of, again, our discussions with the regional council, both in their transport and annual plan as well. That still becomes a key plank for us from there. But as far as Helen's concerned, yeah, I would like to see that looked at from that perspective. Just because it's a residential area, and Edna, you know the area best, you've lived there. And I think, as I say, it would be useful to have a look at that.
Can I just chip in there, Paul, and say I see it as part of connecting communities. It's as simple as that, because very often the end of the peninsula beyond Portobello gets forgotten.
Yeah.
And I think, those families need to feel like they're part of the peninsula as a big community rather than being isolated. And I just saw it as another example of them almost being forgotten. So I think it's important that we have that same signage all the length of the peninsula.
Yeah, because I think, Helen, for us, there is a view in that Harrington Otago community that at times that, yeah, they are a little bit left out. This whole project has been about linking our communities. The tourism and the visitor thing comes after that for us. And so, first of all, we look at the safety of the whānau in that area and the people in that area, then the safety of the visitors and everything from there as well. So it would be good if that, we could see something on those areas. The other thing that you need to be aware of is with the redesign of Tareoni Beach, the expectation there will be that that will be a destination site for visitors and for the community alike. That there's nearly $1 million being spent on that reserve. That will be significant. And I think, as I say, people will look to cycle and walk from a variety of areas for there. So just because it is what it is at the moment, in another year's time, it will be something completely different. And we expect a larger scale of visitors to that area. Any other questions in relation to Helen's proposals? Graham, Broad Bay?
I've not really heard anything too much about concerns as far as that goes in Broad Bay. As far as shared use goes, I think that people there are pretty much just really happy to have it and have it working at this stage.
Edna, Mckendree Bay.
I haven't had any feedback from anyone in Mckendree Bay about the markings there, but I do cycle up through there, and I like them, I have to say. And hopefully people don't just walk over them or bike over them and not take any notice of them.
Yeah, I think you're right. We had, Helen, a while last year, a lot of, especially when summer, we went into spring and summer, we had a lot of negative, and there's been letters to the paper about some poor behaviour both by cyclists and walkers. And I know Alkia Van Haast, your colleague, did the Chevron work that's there at the moment, and there was the summer program. There were some negatives around the sort of Vauxhall to Mckendree Bay. Very pleased also to see that you've looked at just looking at people reminding about their speed through Broad Bay, because that is quite a tight area that runs through a reserve where we have kids on the beach there and parents playing on the reserve as cyclists are going through. And that was a concern that came through in the original consultation that was made with the community when that design was first put. So overall, if you give us a little bit of time to look at that, but I think overall, I'd be fair to say that the board is quite supportive. I would love to see what these things actually look like.
So there are images up on the NZTA website. There's a link in the agenda there.
All right.
That shows some of them in photographs and a lot of them just in terms of the diagrammatic markings and that gives you the size and the shape of them.
Yeah. No,
they will read very much as sort of road markings. So they are different from the decals that Alkia did over the summer.
Yeah, they are. But the
These
summer,
will be permanent.
To be fair, with the fine weather, we have been inundated with cyclists and walkers. We have been very busy. The pathway has been busy, particularly between probably Vauxhall and Broad Bay. And social media is an ugly way of actually trying to test whether some of these conflicts arise, but it hasn't arisen. I haven't seen that at the moment. So, yeah, look, it's a positive. I think we've got to look at it as a positive. Any further questions for Helen before she pops off back to work?
Yeah, no, there's still the issue at Wellers Rock with regard to the shared pathway being used as a parking area. I overheard an altercation between some people trying to walk along there on a blind corner, having to go out into the middle of the road with a pram to get around a very large boat that was parked there at the time. So whether any of that signage work or any of those sort of things can address that issue would be good.
Perhaps what we could do is ask Lauren to summarise just the things that have been raised today and forward that to you, Helen, just as part of this. I think that's the easiest way. I can't see you there, Lauren, but I'm sure, give me a thumbs up if you can hear that. Yeah, sweet. That's great. So we'll do that. I'll ask the board to, if anyone's got any further issues around the markings themselves, or perhaps they feel that the marking's not, perhaps they could be in contact with Helen directly and just CC me in that. You happy with that, Helen?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, and if there's anything else you want from us in terms of on-site or anything else like that, we'd be happy to hear from you and happy to do anything we can.
Thank you very much for your time today.
No worries, thank you. Nearly covered tea time, I think, for you guys.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Helen.
All right, bye.
So we're just carrying on with the Governance Support Officer's work. I see Project Fund. We've got a little bit of money left in the kitty. So just a reminder that we should be encouraging the community to invest that money on behalf of it. I have a major job to do, which I might ask you to look at, Locks, is the plaque for Dave Cole. I've got a little bit behind with that. So we might have a chat about getting that organised. Just as I say, I've just been a little bit distracted with one or two things. The other thing,
I'll catch up next week with you for that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yep. Okay.
Just for you, Lauren, the invoice for the signage at the Mckendree Bay Boating Club, if you could have a chat to Roy Roker. He rang me. I think they may have paid it. They need to be reimbursed. Other than that, as I say, we do have some money left and we should be encouraging the community to spend that on our behalf. I see open spaces plan is up for consultation at the moment, and I would ask you, perhaps Graham and Cheryl, if you wouldn't mind just having a look at that. The link is there. Have a look, see what you think. I have been asked from a different organisation to look at that, but I wouldn't mind us having some input to this. All right. Shared markings, we've done all that.
Paul.
Yeah.
With the open spaces plan, let's not leave Tomahawk off that
Yes.
area,
Yeah.
especially with the amount of development that is going into Tomahawk.
Yes, I agree. And that reminds me that, Lauren, could you remind me to write to Robert West? It's now been 2 years since the suggestion that a landscape plan be created for the Tomahawk school site. We were delayed because of COVID, but we need to get that back on the radar and make some progress with that. Anything else from the Government Services Office, GSO's report? Probably I can't even say that. Very good. I move then that the board notes the Governance Support Officer's report. Someone to second?
Yes.
Graham, all those in favour?
Aye.
Move on to item 9, board updates. I doubt there's been a lot of activity in Keep Dunedin Beautiful, Graham.
No, and actually that's something that had occurred to me. There doesn't seem to have been anything happen with the mural for the Portobello boat shed, so that was something I was going to follow up at the next meeting, which is scheduled for the 14th of February. Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything else that you had any other thoughts about.
Probably for me, only what the process is now in relationship to procurement for murals on the 2 bus shelters at Broad Bay.
Yeah, I was going to ask as to whether there's any more clarity as to what's happening as far as they are concerned.
I wondered whether you might, my understanding is it has to go through a procurement process through Aratoi. And I wondered whether you might have a talk to the people in the arts office, the Aratoi office, and just see whether there's been anything any further from that.
Okay, yep.
I don't know, Andrew, who would be the best person to talk to there, Andrew?
I would just feed it back through Lauren and go that way.
Yeah, can you do
that way you're going through proper structure.
Can you do that? Can you feed it through to Lauren and we'll see where we go from there? And it can come into our next meeting as a board update, because they've been sitting there for nearly a year. So, anything else on Keep Dunedin Beautiful?
Not that I can think of.
Jolly good. Peninsula Roads locks.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I've been out and about over the Christmas period. A lot of heavy traffic on the back bays, of course, but I think they're holding up quite well. I think that we've just had the right amount of rain and the right amount of dry weather, and there'll be a little bit of cutting out. But I'm confident the inspection teams are keeping an eye on it anyway.
Yeah.
My main concern is, of course, is Broad Bay. Really, we've still got that issue coming down the Broad Bay Hill heading to town. Going up to Roebuck Rise, it's still pitted and potted and in a hell of a state in bits and pieces. Whether it's underground, whether it springs out, I don't know what's setting it off. But however, I'll put that in abeyance because no doubt once they start the reconstruction, they may be able to address that problem there. And hopefully that the road setting program, I presume that it's finished today at Company Bay and also Broad Bay.
Those are only temporary repairs.
Gee.
Those are only temporary repairs. There is still to be a reseal.
Do we know when? Is there any confirmed date or?
I don't know at this stage. I don't know at this stage. I haven't heard.
Okay.
But the positive on that is that the area at Broad Bay where the seal was lost and Taggart, King George Street and Rainbirds Bay, they have been finished finally, because they were at a pretty shoddy state. And I guess the concern is if we continue to have hot weather, we'll continue to see tar bleed in some of those areas as well. So, but it's better than it was, but we are getting a reseal, and that's what I know so far, but when, I don't know.
Okay. And the other concern about the road working is when are they going to start with the car park at Fletcher House there? There's that issue that they've got with the sunken culvert 9 meters down.
So I had a meeting with the project manager and Janine Benson about 2 weeks ago. And what they have done is they have joined the subsidence area and the road widening section from Sandpiper Street up to Fletcher House.
One project.
They have joined the contract together. And as of about 2 weeks ago, they were about to go to the tenders board and accept or work through the acceptance of the choice of a contractor for that. So we should be, I would say, within a few days of knowing which contractor has been selected for all of that work and what the schedule will be. That includes the work at Portobello.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing about that, which I need to inform you all, is that the work at both Broad Bay and Portobello will be simultaneous. They will work on the two projects at the same time. There won't be a separation of the two projects, which means that the work will not be dragged out over a significant length of period. It will all be done, we should hope, by the middle of this year.
Yep, that's all I have on roads, Paul.
Is everyone clear on that? That's the information I have from the project manager and the project team to date. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, sorry. Got to keep them fed.
He's looking a bit peaky.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the information I've had, and I had a meeting with Nick. There was a couple of other things that came up with the connection project. Bits and bobs just around small things that needed to be fixed. You notice, Graham, the handrail has gone in at Broad Bay, and one or two other small things. The temporary rubbish bins are there over the summer, but we will end up with permanent ones in those areas as well. That's been a bit of a battle, mainly because the supply lines for that during COVID have been difficult. So we just have to accept that as for what it is. All right, I think that's enough on the roads. Where are we? Community meetings. I would like us to have a round of community meetings with each of your communities prior to the annual plan, with a view that we can consult Broad Bay, Mckendree Bay, Pukahiki, Harwood, the Kike, Tomahawk, all of those areas in Portobello at probably in early March. My understanding is I don't think we'll see the annual plan go out to consultation or begin until April. Is that about right, Andrew?
No, I actually think it's end of March. Because end of March to about the 15th of April.
Right.
And then and again, that's just off my head. Lauren may have the details in front of her. And then the first week of May is normally annual plan hearing. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking. I would say the council meeting on the 29th of March would probably be the latest. But normally we do the end of February, we sign off the annual plan and goes consultation, so that around anniversary day type of thing week.
So what I would be suggesting is that we meet with each of your communities in the first and second week of March. So bear in mind that we wanted to. Cheryl, can
you send us the dates, or do you want to fill in the dates that suit you rather than us trying to negotiate a date?
Basically, for me, I'm happy pretty much. They're all likely to be evening meetings. and that's okay generally. The only times probably for me are Mondays and Tuesdays, and I'm not a great Friday person, and I don't think anyone else is. So that leaves you with Wednesdays and Thursdays, to be fair. And the only reason for that is I work both of those days as well. So, but I could, at a push, I could do a Tuesday night. You know, it's
What about 29th, 30th, and 31st of February?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely happy with that. Actually, yeah, no, happy with that, Lots. It'd be interesting to see how many people we get turn up. All right.
I'm just wondering what the protocols are with the traffic light system in public meetings and what the council's policy is.
Oh, that's true. I keep forgetting about that. Let's have a talk. I'll have a talk to Lauren over the course of next week, and I will let you know. The other option is that what we do is ask you to target through your email contacts, perhaps an online survey.
Oh, yeah.
That's another way. Or the other way is that you canvass people yourselves that you know within the community and gather up that. And we publish online or through the newsletters what our role is. I think there is one coming out for the Peninsula shortly for Portobello. I could publish a draft based on last year's, and if I get any major feedback, then we can discuss that in our March meeting.
I think we need to do that, Paul, just in case we're not able to hold those meetings. I think it'll be just a safe bet.
The more I think about it, the more I think we're going to end up going more online for this. Just don't know what's going to happen. That's the issue. Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay. Civil defence community response planning. I think we have discussed that already today with Andy. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Locks, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I think we just we'll look at it as it comes along. Let Andy organise it. He did tell me that had a small desktop exercise at Waitati.
All right. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to him about that, and that's the sort of thing that we just need to do. So what we'll do is we'll dovetail on some people in the community. The problem we have with those is that we've got 5 distinct communities here, and of course they've all got different ideals, aims, and ambitions and entitlements. So consequently, it can be a bit confusing. So I'll talk to Andy about that, let him know what the peculiarities of the peninsula are. But at the same time, he's come up with a plan, and we've got our consultation document ourselves. So I want to predicate the two together, see if we can get a dovetail fit there. So there'll be a bit of adjustment from his document, there'll be a bit of adjustment from our documents, just to make sure it's simple at the end of the day, so that we've got something functional there. So, and identify perhaps some of the hazards now, of course, with the weather patterns and things like that. I think that's the main concern, and also increased traffic volumes. So again, the pandemic, of course. So I'll just chip away at that quietly with Andy and keep you posted.
Yep. Graham?
Yeah, Loxie, are you going to be able to release an updated copy of your excellent aide de memoire?
I have got one here, Graham. I will email it to you. I found it. It was in a safe place over Christmas.
Right. Will there be an update as a result of what we've already heard today?
No, we'll just update the working document, and when I sit down with Andy, I've already had a session with Andy at home here. So we just got to, as I say, we just got to sort of do a few adjustments. From our army backgrounds, there's 2 or 3 critical documents we use for that sort of planning process. So we're just going to sort of pinch a few ideas from there, and perhaps redraft a few things, a bits and pieces. So when it comes out, so at the end of the day, it won't be complicated. It'll be just something again in the ABMI really.
Great, thanks.
Anything else on civil defence? I would imagine, Cheryl, that it would be worthwhile engaging in that process in your community, given the low-lying nature of it and its potential for tsunami and storm flood tides. Might be useful. And what I could see, Locks, is that we're having a representative, or trying to create, or having community representatives from each part of the peninsula sort of somehow involved with Andy.
Well, that's something I'm going to discuss with him.
Yeah. Cool. Tauranga Reserve, Edna.
Oh, well, Taroney Reserve is moving along nicely, to be honest. The contractors, of course, had to finish before Christmas and couldn't start back until, I think it's this week or next week they're back, and it's only for a short period of time to complete the breakwaters or the groins. And they've done a lot of tidying up of the reserve area out on the beachfront there, so it's looking good. There was a playground consultation with the local community down there around Christmas, New Year, and there's been a lot of feedback from that, which will tie into the feedback from the Portobello School and the Broad Bay School. So we're getting a fairly good look at what people want. It's all sounding quite exciting in terms of getting a playground concept drawn up. Hopefully, planting will be done this autumn, winter, and it's just moving along wonderfully, I think. I imagine, like you said earlier, Paul, that that area is going to be well used from next summer onwards. 12 months from now, it will become a popular destination, I think. So we're looking forward to seeing the end result.
Yeah, no, I think it's looking exciting. It has taken a long time, but it has taken time because we've had to wait until Port Otago finished. So
yeah,
and there's work to be done. You know, there's a lot of other bits and pieces to fit through, but it's coming along reasonably well. Thank you, Edna. Sea line fence, that's for me. My understanding at the moment is that there is a resource consent application being made because of the high landscape values in Hooper's Inlet, and so that's as much as I know at this stage. Sea lions have had their pups by now. They will be moving around. There's a big male actually sitting in that area at the moment, but no sign of anything smaller at this stage. So on that note, I will move that we note the board updates from that perspective. Someone second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Edna. Moving on, oh sorry, I have done inadvertently forgotten to ask you all for your regional roundups in that. We'll start with you, Graham, for Broad Bay.
Yeah, not much to report on Broad Bay. The work that the contractors did on the road just before Christmas was certainly, in terms of just cleaning the edges of the road, was much appreciated, and it would be good to see that happening more regularly if possible. I mean, I presume there is a schedule for that, but it does make quite a difference, and you actually do see more of the serious cyclists on the road when it's been swept and looking less dangerous.
Can you through Lauren ask Janine Benson to provide a schedule for that? Because I noticed the same thing. It's a significantly different on the road and for users when the roads have been swept properly.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, obviously that does make quite a big difference for both Broad Bay and Mac Bay in terms of the beach areas. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. All right. Cheryl, Harwood.
Just that prior to Christmas, you and I met with Stephen Hogg regarding signage for the reserve. And since that time, there's been quite a bit of less than desirable carryings on at the reserve. It's getting quite rampant. And I'm going to get in contact again with Mr. Hogg and just see how he's getting on with that sign. And I know a sign is not going to do a lot, but it's all he can do, really.
No, and I noticed, I think there was a note, I don't know if you saw it, the note that the old brick barbecue's been removed off that site, so that should help with the fire issue. I'm like you, I think you should just progress that with Stephen and make sure that you can accelerate the time frame on that. The other thing you could do is have a quiet talk to Aaron Smith as well at the police station, if it's that bad.
Well, what's happening is people are there in their registered vehicles as they have a right to be, and people on motorbikes are just hooning them around and going round and round in circles around them, upsetting them while they're trying to have a quiet cup of tea.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Sounds like a local issue as opposed to visitors.
Yes. Something to do with, I was talking about Mac Bay before. You know, the new causeway bridge that goes around Company Bay there, that's looking at the original wall. Someone was suggesting to me that so people know why it's there, put a sign up just to say this represents blah, blah, blah. So people are au fait with why we have that causeway there.
Yes.
Like
Another sign, that's all we need, another sign, yep.
Got to have signs.
Well, yeah. Can I just add to that by saying that I think, I don't recall how many years ago, but quite a number, we asked for something along those lines on the walkway one down at the end of the Marai Road.
Yeah.
And somebody somewhere at some time was going to be doing that. And I would say that would be at least 5 years ago. So I smile while you ask, because who knows if and when it will happen. So
I developed signage for a couple of the opening events that we had. You may have seen them. So they're just signs with the history of Portobello Road and some of the photos and other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And some of that includes some of that information about what those boardwalks are. To make a sign out of, to print a sign on an aluminium board in about an A2 size is roughly $150 per sign. And for us to put signs on between here and probably Portobello, you probably want about 10 to a dozen. They would cost you between $1,500 and $1,800 altogether to make. And if that's something you want, we could do that as a board initiated project. And I would donate my designs, my historical designs to the project, to the community, if the board were interested in, as a board initiated project, spending its money to do that.
The only issue is, Paul, is that there's already those signs there that went in originally.
Yeah.
The tall ones. And really, we should be keeping that pattern all the way down the peninsula.
Yes, I agree. Why don't I present to you some of that material again, and let's have a think about that for the next meeting in March. I do feel there is a need for it, but I'm loath again to have the place a plethora of signs, but there are ways and means that we could do that. I do think a historical trail would be useful. It would be an initiative that would make that, and there's other work to be done. Shall we review that and have another look at that in March for our March meeting? And I will forward you at the time the designs that I've got so far. All right, there's about 15 of them. And again, they've all been researched. The photos have been taken from a variety of historical sources, and if you want to have a look at that, we can. All right,
sounds good.
Okay,
we'll hit the 1,000 marker soon.
Pardon?
We'll hit the 1,000 marker sign soon.
Anything else from your area, Cheryl?
No, I think that's it, thank you.
Edna.
Mckendree Bay. The Marine Parade fence. It's my understanding, via Paul, I have to say, that it's on track to be resolved as to how they complete that. So whether it's done in sections or right through, or I have no idea what the outcome of the meeting has or meetings have been, but it seems that it will be resolved. So that's good news. The road crossing Marion Street, which you talked about earlier, I'd really like to see that get done. I think it would be a huge advantage. And I've noticed on these lovely days, that beach is packed with people. And those people are clearly coming from up the hill. So I think, you know, safety is a big issue in that one.
So Edna, just before you go on, can I ask you to draft a letter to Janine Benson, and we'll send it to, let's have a look at that, and we'll get it sent through Lauren to accelerate the Marine Parade, Marion Street crossing, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it still is in the program and we just need to know where that's at.
Yeah, will do. And yeah, the signs, has the yacht club got their signs?
They have. I had a ring from Roy Roker. Lauren, if you could just contact him about either reimbursing them for the cost which we funded to the tune of $500. He either wants to be reimbursed or needs to invoice us directly.
Well, can I confirm that the parking at the Mckendree Bay Yacht Club, what they're talking about, is that a public place or is it owned by the Mckendree Bay Boat Club?
No, it's a public place. It's part of the Recreation Reserve.
Okay.
The other thing that needs to go from you, Edna, and I is a note to Nick Scott relating to the reinstatement of the Mckendree Bay car park after the council used it for its
Yes.
That's been brewing along and we've had no response on that.
Yeah. Noted.
Very good. Is that everything?
Mate, yeah.
Looks, Portobello, Pukahiki?
Pukeki's fine. There's been some roadworks up there. I see there's a Three Waters thing up there, sign up there, which I didn't realise reticulation was going to go that far. But no, Pukeki's fine. I've had no emails from any of the residents up there at all. Portobello, it's fine. It's a work in progress. Suppose the main concern which is going to loom is, in fact, with the increased pressure on the Highcliffe Road, with the roadworks hopefully coming to an end in the not too distant future. But in fact, spending time outside this summertime, I've seen so many near misses at the intersection of Seaton Road and Highcliffe Road. It's not funny. And I'm not too sure. I think that I might have to get Janine down to have a talk to her or someone down on site, just let them have a look, because I've got CCTV going in soon and it'll actually shine down the driveway there. But I just shuddered at some of the near misses because of the fact you've got hedges on either side coming up Seaton Road to stop there. There's no controlled intersection. There's no giveaway sign, and as soon as you get to the intersection there, bang, you're straight onto Highcliffe Road with no clearance at all.
Can you
visibility zero?
Can you draft something up about your concerns? Because I share that, and I also speed is the other factor there. Although the speed limits have been people coming down that hill, can you draft that up and flick it through to Lauren and I so that we can get that into the system? Because there's something.
Yeah, look, a speed hump in that area there will be fine.
Yeah.
Can
you throw those ideas together? Let's see where we can take that with council and see what happens. All right. Andrew?
I'll send you the draft. You can put the fancy words like sustainability and deliverance and diversity in it. Put all those things.
Thank you.
Pass it on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I suggest that photos are added to that for clarity?
Yeah, if you could take some photos, Locks, that would be great.
Have some already.
Yeah, perfect. And we will precipitate outcomes as quickly as possible.
Let me get a result, yes.
Right, is there anything else? Any other updates, Hawani? Any updates in your area?
I'll give it a go, hoping that you can hear me this time. The only real thing is the Tairoa Head car park and the hooning that's going on up there. I've had a meeting with Aaron. He's hoping to get some of the lampposts from the work that's currently going on. And as a temporary fix, lay them down the middle of the car park. So it'd be good to have DCC or community board support for that initiative, just so we stop them doing donuts.
It's getting crazy out there. And, there's been I wouldn't say a crime wave, but there's been some issues, definitely some issues this summer out in that particular area.
Can I just add to that, Paul, about the cars, the hoons, or whatever we might like to call them? I know there is a group in town that have this, what they call the 4 hills or 3 hills, something like that, around town. So each weekend they cruise, and the hills are part of it, of which, you know, Highcliffe Road, I think the other one might be Signal Hill, there's 3 Mile Hill, but it's part of a circuit that they do.
I
And
suppose
we
the other thing
include
is
it.
the price of petrol, it might take care of itself.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
that's true. At $2.50 at the moment, it's not getting cheap to get around. Will we have hooning cyclists on electric bikes? I don't know.
Not doing donuts.
Are we getting closer to a stage of needing a gate at the tank trap, Silani?
We've had a gate there in the past and someone stole it.
Right. Certainly, from my point of view, I don't know about the rest of the board. I think we're pretty supportive of anything that can go on to reduce antisocial behaviour there, Tawane.
So I've already had Aaron talk with Robert West directly, but I said I'd bring it up to the board and just make sure the board supported any initiative to deal with this type of activity.
Yeah, I'm more than happy with that. I mean, it's, you know, it's not only is it a business area, it's a cultural area, it's a wildlife area, you know, it's a major part of the peninsula. We just need to keep the negatives down on it.
Yeah, no, that's all for me. Thanks.
Very good. So we've already moved and noted those reports, even though we've done it in a slightly odd order, because I'm always in a slightly odd order anyway. Move on to the chairman's report. Last year, Hawani, we raised issues around planning matters at Otago for subdivision. You had a reply, you and I had a reply from Claire Austin. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's addressed the issues at the Runanga, or whether they've spoken with the neighbours who brought the original concern, but they know who they are.
The option was available for you and I to meet with Claire Austin and planners. Is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, but I think we are just the messengers.
Okay.
They should be meeting with those that brought the concerns to us rather than us, I think.
I forwarded that that email to the chair of the Runaka, so they were aware of that answer, and I had a quiet discussion with them last year about that from there. So I think our role, like you say, is probably done.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
All right, that's okay. So I've raised before the schedule of the connection project. We're waiting for the confirmation of the contractor, and I believe that should be imminent, and we should have an imminent start from that perspective. Broad Bay Beach and the surrounding landscaping areas have looked a little bit shoddy just in the last, well, over the last few months, to be honest. I've been onto this since December, and I yesterday sent a group of photographs to various council staff and the contractors to say we need to do better than what we've got at the moment, because every weed known to man is growing in these gardens at the moment, and it's a pretty poor reflection both on the project, but also just on the general ambience, and especially too, I guess, on the fact that we work so hard with that community to reassure them over the landscaping. So I have pressed the point on that, Graham, and I think I CC'd you into that conversation yesterday. So we'll watch that space. I do want to see a better result than what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
The road repairs, we've talked about that ongoing annual plan consultation. We'll need to have some discussion around that. And I just reiterate to you, I need you to have a look at the community plan, at what our priorities were from last time, and whether you're comfortable with those again. And I know there's some more detailed sides of things from that point of view. Allens Beach Road, there was a petition created by members of Treetops Drive, asking for the extension of the footpath past Ramsey's place to access Treetops Drive. There's been some ongoing discussions with staff and communication with staff over that, and the people involved with that. I've sort of kept an overview of it. I would suggest that it is also another item for inclusion in the annual plan to see whether or not that, and I think a number of other footpath areas, could be added into the program. There's some confusion, I think, from staff that we know what the program is, but we don't, nor do we know what the levels of service are, which is not something that's shared with us by council, although I know myself and other board chairs have asked what they would be. COVID preparedness, well, we're in COVID preparedness now. This is being prepared, not meeting together. But again, I suppose it's just a matter of just continuing on where we're at and encouraging community to be prepared, because, you know, we just don't know where this is going to take us. Power outages, there's been a significant number of power outages, basically in the Hellington Point, Otago and Harwood areas. I would say that the communication that we've had both from the contractor and Aurora since last year was better than the previous outages that we had in Harwood, I think the year before. Be interested to hear your feedback, you, Cheryl and Hawani, just on that. I have been sharing the outage notices on social media every day when they come up. And if there's anything, as I say, just let me know. Both the contractor and Aurora were quite open to anything that we could add to that, or anything that we had, inquiries that we had from the community. So just let me know. Finally, you would have seen that the footpaths in Mckendree Bay were upgraded. There was a bit of concern from some of the business owners how it might affect their businesses there. Have to say that downers who did that work were completely approachable, both from myself and from the businesses. As a company, they should be congratulated on just their open mind, the way that they worked on that particular area, the way that they worked with the businesses there to make sure that everything worked for them, especially in the summertime, which is the best time of the year for our businesses there. They did a really good job. So congratulations to Downer on the way that they undertook their work in that area. And so that's about it for me. Oh, and the other one is I've had really positive feedback from members of the community about the upgrade of the Phillip Jetty. And I pass a note on to the Parks Department the other day, but just while we're in a meeting, just to note the work of Peter McGruther from the Parks Department in getting that jetty upgraded, putting on the ladder on there for safety, but also for swimmers. The feedback I've had from the community here is that's greatly appreciated. So well done to them. And yeah, I think that's everything I've got here. Oh, just one further thing, Cheryl, if you would mind, we'll talk about that probably in the next meeting in more detail, but between now and then, if you would look at the schools program, just in relationship to engaging schools with the annual plan and getting them involved with that process. I'm really keen to have young people come along into the annual plan and put their case, because we don't hear enough from them, and I hope this is the time to do that. And on that note,
what I'll do, Paul, is I'll wait for Lauren to send me that information.
Yep.
And then I'll ring the schools, and then
yep.
Some of those children are no longer at primary school, but that's all right.
Yep. That's okay.
Yeah.
Their colleagues can follow on from that. I really would like them to have a say in just what's going on. You know,
and if we meet by Zoom next time, they can join us for their bit.
Yep, that's absolutely fine.
Cool.
On that note, I'll move that the board notes the update from the chairperson. Someone second that. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 11. This is going to be a record for our board, I think, in terms of time. Item 11, Councillor Wiley, update from you.
Pretty much it's all been touched on. The council meeting on the 14th of December was a residents' opinion survey. You would have seen the media about that. But beyond that, I think anything else has already been basically touched on and discussed. And I do want to comment and thank staff. I thought the use of the logs and donating them to the St. Trust, the basically part of the Catholic Church in South Dunedin, and using the logs to be chopped up for firewood for families in need was a great partnership, and I applaud them for doing that and look forward to seeing them do more of that sort of support.
Very good. For those, that was the tree removal work that closed the road on Portobello Road in early January. The logs, the material from that went to, as I say, an organisation in South Dunedin to provide firewood for people in need. So I've just had my delivery arrive the other day. No, seriously though, it is a good cause, and like I say, anytime the peninsula can help, we're incredibly generous people. On that, I'll ask someone to, we move that we note Councillor Wiley's report.
I will.
Yeah, I'll note it.
Thank you. We're all in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. We move on now to items for consideration by the chair. Are there any items for consideration by the chair? Anything else that any of you would like to raise? If you could raise them now.
Just Anzac Day, Paul, just to give you a heads up, there's no NZ Defence Force support for Anzac Day ceremonies this year. The National Council has been cancelled for next month, as have other matters. At this stage, the Royal RNZ RSA is speaking with the Protocols Division of the Government to see what's going to happen on Anzac Day, because either what we've done here, we've planned for the full Anzac Day as normal, or if that's canned, we'll just do the one like we did in Channel 39, or it could be stand at your gate again, like they had a couple of years ago. So those matters are still being sort of discussed at this stage. It's the same thing with the Poppy Day collection. At this stage, under the traffic light system, the posy laying and posy making at Anderson's Bay Cemetery may not go ahead, although we've all planned for it at this stage. So public, again, it's the traffic light system which will dictate if there's going to be any services held within the area. So
very good.
I'll keep you updated.
Just on Anzac Day then, if you can see that.
Yeah.
That was my great uncle's lemon squeezer. My mum gave it to me recently. It sits in my office. It's unfortunately lost its band. Yeah, so I've got that in the office. Anyway, I will now thank you for all your attendance. At 11:16, I think, as I say, it's a record for us. A very short agenda, mainly because, as I say, you know, it's a long time since we've met. We've come through the summer and through the holiday period. But I think our meeting in March will be much busier. So, as I say, at 11:16, I would declare the meeting closed. And thank you all for your attendance, and thank you to staff and Lauren. Nice to have you back, Lauren, after some time away over the summer, and we look forward to seeing you in March. So have a good day, folks, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.